Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today we're going to do another mukbang video, and today we will be chatting of how I became a single mom. And today we also have again, she's doing a presentation one more time. I got a small today, so we'll see how that goes. I've been having a lot of stomach issues. I have a lot of stomach issues all the time, and for me it's normal. Well, kind of. I feel like I've already gone to the doctor so many times about it. Anyways, we're not gonna get into that spiel today, but yeah, today I have a very sensitive stomach, so I'm like, you know what, your girly pop is gonna do a fun. Today we're gonna talk about how I became a single mom at 28. I think I was 28. Actually, was I 27 while I was pregnant? I think so. And then I became a mom at 28, something along those lines. I think a lot of people are wondering how I met Kesney's dad, which Kesney is my daughter, and my daughter is now 3. She's a toddler. Love her so much. So I actually met Kesney's dad through Bumble. So I met him through Bumble. We began talking through the app, and if you guys didn't know, Bumble is, I think, right? The girl messaged the guy first or something like that. I think so. I can't remember. But anyways, I was on Bumble. I started talking to Kesney's dad on there, and we actually had a lot of things in common. Our families live around the same area. So I feel like it became like very convenient. Obviously, we had never met each other in person, but we were around the same area. We knew a lot of the same people. So I feel like that kind of, we just had a lot of like those little things in common, about like living in the same place. We went to like the same college and stuff like that. So that was how we kind of began talking. It's so funny because we only really went out a couple times, like dating. We didn't date for that long. I want to say we dated for about 6 months. If that, around that. I don't remember. We did not date that long. So we went out on a date, and yeah, we just began talking, and obviously we started dating. We made it official and we started dating. So it's crazy because when I met him, I don't know, it was like a really weird thing, guys. I don't know how to explain, but I'm a big believer in God, and I believe in God's signs. And it is so weird because when I met him, I felt something different. Like, I felt something in my gut. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but like now that I had my child and stuff, like I feel like God was really giving me a sign that this person was going to be significant in my life in some type of way, but I didn't know how. At that time in my head, I was like, oh, I don't know, like there's something different. I couldn't put a finger on it, to be honest. I had some type of like revelation at that moment. So that's how I, in my gut, was like, oh, I feel like, this can go somewhere. So we ended up talking. We ended up obviously hanging out, dating more, blah, blah, blah. Holidays came. You guys can do the math. And, Kesney was made, and that is how Kesney came about. So I'm not really gonna I'm not gonna get into very much details, but I'll give you guys like an overview of all that happened. He ended up finding a job. So I live in Washington. His family lives in Washington. He had just gotten back from finishing his degree out of state. So he had just came back. He was trying to find a job with his degree, and he found a really good opportunity for himself in Vancouver, Washington. So he ended up moving to Vancouver, Washington. So we were in a long distance relationship. And for me, when we had met, he had told me that was his plan. And for me, obviously at that time, I was like, oh, like you should do it. You should move. You should, relocate. And, because it sounded like he was really interested. And I was like, who am I to tell you? Like, yes, I'm your partner, but like, who am I to tell you what to do with your life? Especially if you just graduated, we're still getting to know each other. We don't know what's going to be of our lives. Anyway, so that happened. and he would come back and forth to see me. Mind you, Vancouver, from where I live, is a very far drive. I think it's like 4 or 5 hours. So it literally takes like a whole day. Imagine like having to go see someone for a day, then come back home and all that. Like, yes, granted, he has his family here, so that helped him out. That happened, and then things that just ended up falling apart. Obviously, the long distance was not really helpful. And I could just tell that like we had things in common, but I feel like we had more things that made us different. And literally, we only knew each other from social media. Like, we didn't know anything else from each other, honestly. Like, we only know, well, we had talked and obviously our date, but that was it. Like, no connections whatsoever, no mutual friends, nothing to, like, you know, that we would have met. So I feel like that was one of the drivers too, that was kind of like, okay, like, we know each other, but there's really nothing else to this, I guess. Like, there was not many commonalities that would keep us together, I guess. So yeah, so we drifted apart, obviously, and then we broke up. And at that time, when we broke up, I feel like obviously the news was, you know, crazy, because, you know, you come, we hang out, and then like a month later, I'm like, hey, I'm pregnant, you know? And that is what happened. You know, I had reached out to him and I told him, you know, that I was pregnant. And it wasn't the reaction that I wanted from him. You want a pregnancy to be an exciting thing. And obviously when you're broken up, like, it just doesn't make any sense. But come on, dude, we're adults, so we know what we're doing and what we're getting into. It shouldn't be a surprise, because like, obviously what happens, you know, when you're making a baby, obviously a baby comes out of the situation, if that makes sense. When I found out I was pregnant, I was super surprised, and I was really taken back because I had taken Plan B the next day. Well, find out that I had ovulated. Obviously, when you ovulate, Plan B does not work. So don't let me be the one to tell you that. But yeah, I didn't know I had ovulated at all. So obviously, like, the Plan B was not gonna work. Like, anyways, I had no idea, and I had no idea at all. And so yeah, I ended up finding out that I was pregnant, and I knew I was pregnant because I would not get my period. I always get my period ahead of time, like a week ahead, like 4 or 5 days ahead, and it did not get here. And I knew as soon as I was 2 days late, and I was like, I'm 2 days late. This is not normal. And I panicked because I was like, oh, hell no. Like, I know my body and I know everything of my body. And yeah, I didn't get my period. So I was like panicking. And I remember I messaged him and I was like, hey, like, this is what's going on, blah, blah, blah. I was like, are you sure? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, I'm sure. Like, clearly I wouldn't be telling you if I wasn't sure. But that happened, and obviously at that time I had already tested, guys. And it's so funny because like my test, even though it was 2 days late, you know, it had been like what, like a month or a couple weeks. It is crazy how fast that pregnancy test turned to say pregnant. And I was just like staring at the test, and I started crying because I was like, oh my god, I am having a baby out of wedlock, and this is not good. And I just broke up with my partner, so what is gonna happen? I don't know. I was so bamboozled. Like, I wanted to be a mom. I really wanted to be a mom. Trust me, I wanted to be a mom, but that's not how I wanted to be a mom. I obviously wanted to be married and engaged and have a happy whole family. So yeah, I never planned to get pregnant this way and not, you know, be a broken family. But here's where we're at. So obviously, you know, I'm looking at my pregnancy test. I'm all filled with anxiety, sadness, madness, to say the least. Very much confused at that moment, because you're like, oh my god, who do I tell first? What do I do? Like, I don't know. And obviously for me at that point, like, I was like, okay, well, you know what? If I'm pregnant, like, I did have some questions. Like, I questioned myself. You know, I asked myself all the girl questions that you ask. But at the end of the day, I was like, I'm not going to give up my baby just because somebody doesn't want the baby. Like, I knew exactly what I was doing when we did what we did. And I know obviously the consequences, what it came with, but I was not, I don't know, in my heart I knew that for me I would not be able to live with like getting an abortion. So for me, I was like, you know what, no, it is what it is. I'll deal with this and just go with that, whatever comes with it, negative, bad, good, we'll just have to keep pushing. With that being said, it is a lot to take in, and I feel like at that moment when I had told Kesney's dad about being pregnant, he was obviously not very happy, and he was also probably panicking inside, and he's like, well, are you gonna keep it? What are you gonna do? And like I said, I told him, I was like, no, I'm keeping my baby. You're crazy. You don't have to be in this baby's life, but I am, So anyways, that's what happened. And yeah, I'm nobody to tell anybody if you want to keep your baby or not, whatever you want to do. But for me, that was what felt right at the moment. And I was like, you know what? I want to be able to forgive myself if I didn't have my baby, or if I couldn't have babies after, if I were to get, the pill or the baby taken out. And that is basically how I became a single mom. And yeah, that's a moral of the story. With that being said, you guys probably have questions of like how, Kesney's dad took everything and how that went. And I'm gonna be very honest, like it did not go too well from both sides. Not that we were being mean to each other. I think there was a lot of like emotional instability from both sides of, what would happen. There was a lot of like tug of war in terms of like, oh, what would this baby's life be like, us living together or us being separated. Like there was a lot of that. And obviously like we were not on the same page. I think we both had to come to an agreement like, okay, we're not gonna be together. Like this is not, a baby is not gonna keep us together. And that's just the gist of it. Like we're gonna have to work something out so that we both can see the baby, but we're not gonna be in a couple. So yeah, that's what happened. And today we are co-parents. Obviously, that feeling I had in my gut was right. I didn't know this person was gonna be in my life forever in one way or another. Yeah, he's now stuck with me and the baby. Now we're stuck with each other. I know it's crazy to think looking back, but I mean, it is what it is. I'm a big believer in God and all the plans he has, whether it comes with challenges or it doesn't. And all I can say, guys, is that we should never judge people for the decisions they want to make, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who deal with the consequences, and I'm dealing with my own consequences of everything that happened. And obviously I'm taking responsibility with my part. Everybody can make decisions on their own, and we have the option to make decisions. We have free will in this world, whether we want to take our responsibilities or leave them. And I feel like we both, because his dad and I both took the responsibility of taking on being parents. And I'm sure, he feels the same way. I'm sure he's, didn't agree. Obviously, he was upset. So, we didn't agree to being in this situation, how we are. But, hey, like, we now have our daughter. And honestly, it's the biggest blessing to me, to him, to our families. I don't know. It's a crazy thing, but I feel like it's going to sound so weird. And I hope nobody takes this wrong. But I feel like we needed her in our lives. Obviously not the way it happened, but we need, like, I don't know. I feel like my daughter has brought like a lot of light and like, what's he saying? Like smiles in our families when we needed it the most. And now I have a bonus family, and I expressed this in my other video. Like I have a very good relationship with Kesney's dad's family. They help me out so much, and I know if anything were to happen and vice versa, like we have each other's back. So yeah, I feel like that was God giving me that bonus side. Like, I don't know how to explain, but yeah, now I have a bonus family from that side. And I'm trying to be very cautious on what I'm saying in this video, because, you know, I'm currently in a relationship and I wouldn't want my partner to feel some type of way from me making this video, or vice versa. I don't want Kisney's dad to feel weird for me sharing this information, or feel like, you know, I'm painting him to be a bad person. That has never been the case. Like, you know, I feel like I try to speak highly of him, even if the situation didn't turn out the way we wanted to. I know there's story time or whatever was all over the place, but I hope this kind of gives you guys an idea of, like, you know, how it ended up turning out to be. Again, guys, I'm still getting used to doing YouTube videos. A lot of these videos I do them in public, and sometimes there's people right by me. If I'm looking around where I'm being weird, it's because of that. That's how I became a single mom. You know, finding out that I was pregnant, you know, meeting Kisney's dad, finding out that I was pregnant, and how I handled everything. But yeah, we are now co-parents, and I feel like this is the best thing that could have happened. If that wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't have met my current partner. I wouldn't have met his family. I wouldn't have my little bug. And I love her. I love her to death. She's literally my soul in this life. Like, I don't see my world without her. I want to say, I guess, like a message from single moms or single parents out there. My biggest thing is, like, you know, make things work for the kid. And what I mean is, like, being cordial parents. I see so many toxic parents for no reason, when, like, really, like, the other person gets a partner, or, like, I don't know, they just, financially is a big one, or, like, if they're not present. Like, I see a lot of that. And don't get me wrong, everybody has the right to, every circumstance is different. And I guess what I can just say is, never close your child off to not getting to know their parent. Obviously, if it's a toxic situation, yeah, but, you know, there's nothing going on and you're just being, you know, mean because the other parent doesn't want to be with you, or whatever the case is. I don't know. Don't be like that. Like, it's such a small world and such a small life. You never know what God is, or why God is pulling a person away from you. And I feel like a lot of people don't understand that or see the bigger picture. For me, like, now, like, at that time, yeah, it was hurtful, everything we were going through, but at the same time, like, you know, I didn't go to my pregnancy alone. But now looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, everything lined up. Like, everything lined up the way it was supposed to. I would say, do not close yourself off just because you had an interesting situation happen to you in life. Cosas mejores están por llegar. When you think something better is happening to your life, trust me, there's always a purpose. There's always something that happens and a reasoning why. And anyways, I feel like a lot of the reason too why the situation has helped me is because, you know, I didn't need to mature, and I feel like this was what kind of woke me up in my life. I hope you guys like this little chit chat video, and I will catch you guys on my next video. Bye.